The crisis of the consulting industry, where did it come from? What is my outlook for this and the next year? And what you should do now in order to make the right career move. Hi, my name is Jonas Niari from Mastering Consulting. And in this video, I want to talk about probably the hottest topic in the industry right now. I want to talk about the consulting crisis. And I talk to many different people, from many different firms across the globe on many different positions. And this is probably like the most discussed topic, that I experience in conversations. So everyone wants to know, hey, what do you think? How will this further develop? What kind of impact does it have on the consulting firms? What should I do now? What is the right career move? And that's why I, want to make this video to share my experiences, to, also give my own thoughts and to contribute to the discussion. And I want to talk about three things. Okay, first I want to talk about the background. So, what kind of factors contributed to the consulting crisis that we are currently in. Second, I want to talk about my personal outlook for the future. And third, I want to talk about the concrete steps that you can do to maybe even benefit from this crisis. So let's talk about the background of the crisis. So first of all, I started being interested in the consulting industry in, I think it was 2012 roughly. And I haven't experienced a worse situation that we are in right now. So, and also people that I talk to who have more experience, who are in the consulting market, since, already were in the consulting market in 2008, they also say, that even in 2008, during the financial crisis, it wasn't as bad as it is now. So we can probably say that it is the worst crisis in the 20th century that we are experiencing right now. And the question is, how did it come to this? And for me, there are three factors, that contribute to the current situation. And the first factor is that it's really, really hard for consultants, for consulting firms to, get the hiring right. Because there's a big risk for the consulting firms. You see, consulting firms typically, they sell time, so they sell the amount of consultants that they have, and they don't really have fixed costs, other than consultants. Okay, so this means if they, hire not enough consultants, then, they miss out on revenue opportunities. So, these are opportunity costs. But if they hire too much consultants or too many consultants, then, they have a very high fixed cost because all the people are on the beach. Okay, and that's also a problem. So that's why it's very tricky for consulting firms to get the staffing right. And that's one thing. Then what we see as a factor, as a second factor, is that we saw a significant overhiring in 2000. Yeah, it was 22, 23, roughly, where we had after COVID, or it was probably more like 21, 22, where we had a boom. Okay, so we had the Corona crash. Then the Fed started printing money like crazy, so everyone could borrow money for free. There was a lot of money in the market. Then we had this kind of crazy boom, and with that we had a lot of opportunities for consulting firms because there was such a high demand in consulting projects, and the firms had to react, okay, because they didn't want to miss out on these opportunities. So that's why they hired a lot of people, just to be able to do these kind of projects. And that's why we had a massive overhiring in 21 and 22. And that's probably the second factor that contributes to the current situation. And then the third factor that we see is that they significantly lowered their standards. So probably, no one will officially confirm that, but, everyone I talked to, they said, compared to before 2020, the standards, were lowered. And this has several reasons. Of course, if they want to hire more people, they, cannot only take the top profiles, because, then they couldn't fill out all of these positions. And also, I know, and this is very controversial, but some people in the industry say that all these diversity topics also contributed to that, because if you want to hire people from a certain group, then sometimes in order to achieve the quotes, they also lower the standards. And this is what happened as well. And don't get me wrong, I think that the quotes are a very good thing, but still that's a reality. And this leads to a situation where we now, since the market declined again, where we have like, less demand from the market for consulting services, we have way too many people, in the consulting firms measured in terms of the revenue that they make and the demand that they have. So this leads to a situation now where, people are massively on the beach. Okay, and I talk to people, who are working in offices where they tell me, these are large firms, the top consulting firms, where they say, hey, my practice, we haven't sold a project in the past 6 months. Okay, we are only pitching. Or like in a different practice where they have a utilization of only 25%. So this means like 75% of the people are on the beach. Okay, and that's like crazy. And in terms of profitability for the companies, of course, that's a really, really bad situation, because of course they have very high fixed costs, not enough revenue, and they actually make a loss. Okay, and this is a situation where the consulting firms, of course, have to react. And this is why we have, all these hiring stops, where we have all the layoffs, where, the consulting firms significantly raise the standards in terms of their evaluations, so that people get, lower evaluations, that they don't get promoted, that they have an argument also to lay off people. And that's just the reality how it is. So what is my outlook? Let's talk about that. What do I think, how this will develop in the future? So to understand that, to understand my argument, you need to understand how consulting cycles work, okay, how market demand for consulting services work. And there's always the question, when is the consulting industry better off? If there is a boom cycle, because then there is a lot of money in the market and companies can afford consulting skills, or is it more if we have a bust cycle? So if we, see a decline, and then we need all the turnarounds and restructurings. And the answer is that in both situations, consulting companies benefit. So they benefit in the boom cycles, but also like in the bust cycles. One could argue that like the boom cycles are better off, but still in both situations there is a high demand for consulting services. There's only like one situation that is really, really bad, and that is when we have a lot of insecurity in the market. And we see this kind of insecurity, for almost a year now, okay, where the companies don't really know, some countries are in a recession, in the US it's still a question if we go into a recession. Then, we all still suffer from, the lockdowns and COVID and the supply chain issues. Then we have higher interest rates. No one knows, because like we still have like a very bullish sentiment in the market in terms of like the stock market. And this is like a very complex situation. And many top managers and many CEOs, they are just insecure. They don't really know what will happen in the future. Okay, what will happen like in the next month. So will we see like the next boom cycle, so that the Fed starts printing money again, so that we will have a situation like in 2020, 2021 roughly, or will there be a major crash that could also happen, and then it will be even worse than it is now. And in these times of high insecurity, companies typically they keep their cash very tight, because they want to have a buffer, they want to have security. And the easiest cost position that they can cut is typically the external services, like consulting budgets. Okay, this is what they cut typically the first, and that's why consulting firms are very sensitive in these kind of environments. Okay, where there is a lot of insecurity in the market. And in my opinion, we need to get rid of this insecurity. Okay, because if this continues and if no one knows, what will happen, they won't pull the trigger and hire consultants, because still, there's too much insecurity. So I think like two things should happen, or one of these two things. Either, we have a crash, a very painful one, then we will probably see like, 3 or 6 months that are really, really bad. But after that, we can pick up again, because then everyone knows, okay, this was the crash that we had, that we were waiting for, and then we can pick up again. Or on the other hand, we need to go into a different boom cycle where the Fed says, hey, we just print a lot of money, and so we do anything to avoid a recession, and then they start printing money again, so that the companies know, okay, now there's a lot of liquidity in the market that we can spend again on consulting services, for example. So one of these two things probably has to happen in order to solve the situation, and in order to have a clear direction again. And I'm pretty confident that once this starts, that we will see an increasing demand in consulting services again. What will happen? I honestly cannot tell. So this is really, really hard to predict. I would assume, because we have a very, tricky year with the elections in the US, I would assume that, something will happen. I cannot say in which direction we are going. That's really, really hard to say. But I think that this kind of trigger event will hopefully solve the situation for consulting firms. So let's move on to question number 3. So what you should do now in order to, still have a successful career and benefit from the solution E. And, there are 2 situations, okay? Like situation number 1 is that maybe you want to land a job in consulting, okay? And situation 2 might be that you already work in consulting and want to make a career. So if you want to land a job in consulting, then you need to understand that competition is really, really tough at the moment. We had a lot of layoffs, so many top profiles from MBB, for example, they are out on the market, and some of them are also looking for new consulting jobs, okay, at tier 2 firms, for example. So competition is really, really, really tough. And in order to still succeed in the interviews, okay, and to set yourself apart from this very tough competition, you just need to be better prepared, okay? If you want to get a job this year, then you just need to put everything into the right preparation. That's really important, because otherwise, you won't have a chance, okay? And I still want to encourage you, because like I see many people also in the market who say, now it's a very bad time to join the consulting industry, so maybe I try to go to a different industry. So yes, it is very competitive, because you have all these attractive profiles on the market, but still on the other hand, since there is so much negativity in the market, there still might be these opportunities. So I want to encourage you, to try to get a job, to apply to these firms, okay, and try to get out and get an invitation. But still, if you get invited, then you need to do everything possible to have the right preparation and to even be better prepared than you usually would be, because otherwise you won't have a chance. If you already work in consulting, then you probably experience the negative sentiment around you, and you probably also experience that the criteria, the evaluation criteria, the standards, they just get raised, and maybe you're even afraid to get laid off. And here I can just tell you that I worked with several people who were in a similar situation, and I can tell you, if you learn the right skills, if you learn all the basics, if you improve your skill set, then you eliminate, the potential reasons that a firm can have in order to lay you off. Okay, so here the secret is to invest in your skill set, to just outperform everyone else. Okay, and it's no rocket science. All the skills that you need in consulting, they are learnable, but you have to put in the work. You have to actually sit down and work on your weaknesses. You have to work on your strength. Just that you eliminate every reason the firm can have to lay you off. Okay, that's really important. And don't be too proud. I know many people, who work already in consulting. They've come a long way. They've probably been, very, very good at university. They've been successful, and they probably think, okay, I can do that by myself. But the market sentiment is currently against you, and don't be too proud, to think you can do it on your own, and don't be too proud to ask for help, okay? Because that's what I experienced as well. That many people, come to us, for example, way too late, okay? Because if you still have like a couple of months, and if you just received a warning shot, then you still have a lot of time. And of course, the closer you get to the actual layoff, the more difficult it is, okay? So if you're afraid, then just work on your skills as early as possible. That's the best protection that you can have against layoffs, okay? And that's my take on the current consulting crisis. And if you want to get a job in management consulting, or if you want to work on your skill set, then please don't hesitate to contact us. So we have the Consulting Skill Bootcamp, we have a candidate track, we have a skill track that actually helps you, to work on your skills in a very intense program that actually creates results. Okay, so click on the link below if you want to work with us. Then we can schedule a free initial interview where you take a close look at your situation and then decide together on how to proceed. And with that being said, I wish you a lot of success. Have a good week and talk to you soon. Goodbye, Johannes.